Hello people. I've had some more requests. One, for example, I think was this morning from Martin, one of my followers, and many others have been asking me to do a video explaining the method to produce the whistle for the whistle language, because if you want to be an articulated whistler, you have to produce articulated whistle, which is the type of whistle used here in the Canary Islands and also some other parts of the world, whereby people speak to each other. They send words by means of whistling. So the thing is, not every whistle will do this. Some types of whistles are perfectly adequate and suitable for it, and others not so much. The most common whistle in the world, the pursed lip whistle, is not very good for it. Why? Because it doesn't have very much volume, and it also the fact that it requires your lips to be almost closed in that pursed shape restricts the amount of movement, the volume of the buccal cavity. Whereas the other whistles like this leave your mouth wide, which allows the rest of your buccal cavity, your mouth and your tongue and your cheeks and all those parts to interact in order to produce not only a loud sound but also with a lot of variance in the, for example, the pitch. So the way you produce this, I learned this first of all in the last century from a man called Isidro Ortiz. He was from Gomero, a little village in the center called Chipude, and he was of course an excellent whistler and very concerned about keeping the traditions of his island alive. The people in Chipude, there were lots and lots of excellent whistlers there. I guess there still are, to the point that they even had their own kind of almost dialect of whistling. When Chipudi people were whistling together in their normal local variety of whistling, other people from other villages often couldn't quite catch what they were saying because they whistled so often and so much. They had a kind of a much faster, almost shorthand version of whistling, and then they had then they would whistle according to whichever type of whistle was necessary for other people in other villages to understand them. So they kind of had two different whistle languages in Chipude. It was so common there. Anyway, Isidro Ortiz, the first time I met him, he told me the way to whistle, because I didn't know how to whistle at the time. I only knew the pursed lip whistle, which he told me. He said, which means that's no good. And then he said to go ahead and learn this one. Now, he said that you have to use the first knuckle on the hand you use for writing, which I have since found out is not necessarily the case. I now know that you can use any finger or any combination of fingers or anything else you want to put in your mouth, which will allow the whistle sound to be made. But I learned with Isidro Ortiz, and his method was excellent and it worked fine for me. So what he said was you stick your tongue against this knuckle here quite forcefully, and then you push your tongue for the first while. First you take out your tongue, push it against the knuckle and push it back into your mouth. Of course, when you become used to whistling, you wouldn't need to take out your tongue first, but in order to show me, he went something like this. So you can see the tongue is quite firmly pressed against, the tip of the tongue is quite firmly pressed against that knuckle there. Then you push your tongue reasonably forcefully back into your mouth and you bite down on the finger, but not with your teeth. You cover your teeth first with your lips. So I will be biting this knuckle but with my lips around the teeth, so the teeth and the knuckle never really make contact, like so, and I'll like so. Because there's plenty of room in the buccal cavity, we can vary the pitch of the different sounds. So let's see if I can show you how I'm doing that, so you can get an idea of how to go about and do it yourself. One thing to bear in mind is that the mouth is completely closed. Your mouth, except for the side opposite of where you put your finger in. Your mouth is hermetically sealed, apart from one little part here. I guess about a quarter of the mouth or so is open. So there, all this part of my mouth is completely sealed off, and the only way where air can pass is on this side. With other people, the same thing on the other side. Some people whistle like this. There's many different postures. Some people whistle with different fingers, with different postures. It all seems to work if it's the kind of the open mouthed whistle with the finger. So I'll now let you have as close a look as we can allow with this camera. I don't know if you can see enough there, but you get the idea. You need to, every time you try it, if you're not getting a sound, you need to vary slightly one of the factors, be it the angle of your finger, of your knuckle, the depth at which it is in your mouth, the strength of your tongue against your knuckle, the angle of your tongue, the distance from your lips, for example. You got to keep trying to move the variables a little bit so that you end up getting that combination that eventually makes the sound. And if you practice this regularly, you should get to that at some stage. In my case, I met Isidro Ortiz on a Monday. He says, "Patrick, you can't whistle, but when you can whistle, come back to me." I said, "When can I next see you?" He said, "Next Monday." I was determined. I had to do it. He says, "Next Monday, if you can whistle, come and I'll show you how to make a speech with it." So for the next week, every day I was practicing. Think about 3 times a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and then late in the evening. And I recommend that you practice for maybe 3-4 minutes, and do not blow hard when you're practicing. Blow nice and softly, gently. And one day, with a bit of luck and a bit of patience, something like this will happen. And you get that first sound. Of course, you lose it straight away, but then you'll get it again. If you keep following, if you keep chasing that method, that posture which you used, you'll eventually be able to whistle every time you put your finger in your mouth. Of course, there's also a type of whistle which I learned many years later, which is practically the same without fingers, just for convenience. Sometimes I prefer to be able to whistle without fingers, because in gomero, most of the whistlers use one finger. Many of them use 2 or more fingers, and then some of them whistle with no fingers at all. And then some people, of which I now include myself, use both the system with a finger and without. Without a finger, looks and sounds like this. And maybe I'll do a video on that later on, going into the details. But for now, I hope you've got enough details to get you started on whistling with one finger. And if you practice that a couple of times a day, hopefully you'll have it within a few days. It's a matter of patience and consistency, and your mouth, of course, will learn to rule out the systems, the combinations or the postures that don't produce a sound, and you'll eventually end up finding the right method. So hopefully that's helpful. Any more questions, please don't hesitate. As you know, you can now hit me up on Italki, where I am now giving classes and any sort of clearing up any doubts on the whistle language. It is listed on there as Silbo gomero, and feel free. That's the platform is www.italki.com, I believe, or .org, or one of those. And yeah, I can help you out with clearing up any doubts you have on that, and get you whistling as soon as practical. Okay, folks, happy whistling.